I've been wanting to do a pride painting for at least a few months now, and I've actually started several different paintings, but I just couldn't think of a concept that didn't feel either too cheesy or too angry. Being queer and being proud is something that's hard to represent visually because, at least for me, it's more of a feeling than anything else. It's a feeling of authenticity, of peeling back the layers of who I thought I had to be to find who I most want to be. So, how do you represent that visually? I was working on a sort of collage of rainbow flowers one day, speaking of cheesy, when I had the idea for this painting. I'm not even exaggerating, I just immediately put my pencil down and I went outside to take this reference photo. Starting out on this piece, I'm not entirely sure where it'll take me or how I'll pull it off exactly, but I'm just starting from the basics and sketching it out. I originally planned to use myself in my reference just as an example for the pose. I wanted to keep the person pretty vague and androgynous, so I was planning to make the head bald and slightly alter the facial features so that it didn't look fully like me. But to get something on the page, I'm just starting out by painting what I see in the photo. I really love digital painting because it just makes it easy for me to not overanalyze from the start. My sketch doesn't have to be perfectly proportional, and I don't have to know where exactly everything will be on the page because I can easily move things around. It gives me the freedom to just fully relax into it and try new things and just trust the process. For this first layer of color, I'm painting the largest patches of color that I can quickly see. I'm not paying too much attention to the fact that I'm painting a face or an eye or a cheek. I'm just noticing that there's a long skinny patch, the lightest shade here, and another circle of that same color over here. And then next to it, there's a patch of color that's a little bit more red or a little darker, etc. I'm using the turpentine brush for most of this piece. I love this brush because it looks like brush strokes, which give it some character, and it also blends the colors together just a tiny bit so that different colors flow together nicely, but not so perfectly smooth that it looks flat. You may have noticed that I originally made the sketch using a tan color, but once I started painting on top of it, I made the sketch blue instead. The reason for this is because I was having a hard time seeing where my lines were when I started painting on top of them, so I figured if they were blue, they'd be a lot more obvious. This was my first time using a random and vibrant color for my sketch, and it worked really well, so I think I'll probably do it again in the future. I mentioned before that I've had a hard time thinking of a concept for a pride painting that wasn't too cheesy or too angry. I think that's because being openly queer is kind of a roller coaster of emotions. There are times when I feel so joyful and open and I just love who I am, and I'm so proud of being able to dig deep within myself and be proud of things I used to be ashamed of, and I just want to, shout from the rooftops that everyone is beautiful and the world is full of color and it's just perfect. So then I want to paint something that's carefree with vibrant rainbows and bright lighting. And then there are times when I feel like no one gets me and I'm the way that I am because I'm damaged and my chest feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds and I just want to hide under my bed indefinitely. And those are times when I want to paint something dark that makes a statement about how our culture traps people in boxes or that portrays feeling judged and sad. Not to say that I won't paint either or both of those concepts at some point, but for this piece, I want something that feels more balanced. I want it to feel emotional and to come from a genuine and deep place within me. And I also want it to feel like it's a personal thing, not a piece that's making a statement about society or that's about anything other than me being in touch with myself. Because ultimately, that's what Pride is all about. It's a celebration of people being who they really are. But that just portrays kind of the complexity of multiple emotions, trying to make it feel multifaceted and not just one aspect of being queer. As I'm working on this painting, I'm starting to feel more and more like it should be a full-blown self-portrait. It feels vulnerable and scary, so that's a big reason why I didn't want to at first. But what better way is there to represent Pride Month than with an actual queer person? And also, what better way to represent my own journey and my own pride in who I am than by using my own face? Deciding to make this a self-portrait means that I'll have to be more particular than I have been so far about proportions, so I'll have to move some things around so that it actually looks like me, but that shouldn't be too hard to do. And it also means I'll be adding hair instead of just having a bald head. Since my bangs cover my eyebrows somewhat, you can't quite see as much emotion on my face, so I used a difference photo for reference to paint the wrinkle of skin between your eyebrows that often forms when people cry or are feeling something deeply, and then I adjusted the placement of my hair a bit as well. It's kind of an interesting experience to paint your own face. I'd honestly recommend it. I'm so used to looking at my face in an analytical way, like making sure my hair looks the way I want, or noticing imperfections in my skin, or things like that. But when I'm painting it, I'm just noticing things like the way that my cheeks and eyelids and chin are more illuminated than the rest of my skin at this angle, and how thick my eyebrows are in proportion to my eyelashes, and how wide my mouth is relative to my nose, things like that. It's a very different headspace, like I'm relearning the way my face looks in order to recreate it in pixels. It honestly feels refreshing. I've never really liked my ears, but painting them gave me a new appreciation for them. I don't really look like myself without them, and it's cool to notice all the different angles and surfaces within an ear that reflect light in different ways. Alright, I've said what I wanted to say for now, so just enjoy watching me paint in peace, and I'll be back in a bit when I have more relevant info to share. Painting the tattoo on my arm was a surprising challenge. It's angled away from the camera, so I couldn't just draw the design, but I know the design so well since it's on my arm that it was hard to see it just exactly how it looks in the photo rather than how I think it should look when you can see it clearly. I had to make it pretty smudgy and vague, but with a more defined outside edge and with areas in the middle that were darker than others. So it kind of took some experimentation, but it was kind of fun to pull off. I want the piece to blend well with the background, so I carefully darkened the edges so that they look faded around the hair and the arms and the legs. And now here comes the rainbow part. I mean, we all knew it was coming since this is a pride painting after all. This was a situation where I had the general concept in my head, but I couldn't quite visualize how to make it look convincing. Like, I wanted all of the colors of the rainbow to be incorporated, but I also wanted it to be a tear shape and look somewhat like liquid. I also wanted the two teardrops to be different from each other, so you'll see me playing with it for a while. This was a lot of trial and error and experimentation and going back and forth on what color I wanted where. I couldn't quite figure out the rainbow tears, so I took a little break to touch up some other details. I ended up painting a curl back on top of where I drew the eyebrow crease that I talked about before. Once I added the tears, I felt like they portrayed the emotion that I was going for with the eyebrow crease, so when I had both, it felt like a little bit too much. I also really like when my hair has that curl that goes down between my eyebrows, so I wanted to add that back in. After much trial and error, I realized that the thing I didn't like about the rainbow tears was the shape of the rainbow. I wanted it to look more fluid in how it was flowing rather than all of the colors forming in a V shape below the eye. After I figured that out, it was mainly a matter of getting the proportions of all the colors to look relatively even, and then adding the darker colors along the edges, along with some white highlights to make it pop and give it some shape. Also, there's more purple in the teardrops under the eyes especially that unfortunately you can't really see in the video for whatever reason. Technical difficulties, I guess. But just trust me that it's got the full rainbow, including purple. I decided to crop it a bit. I feel like the empty space at the top just took away from it overall. After I got the teardrops all sorted out, I wanted to make the shirt look more like fabric. So I went back in and added seams as well as folds in the fabric. I have discovered that an important part of making fabric look convincing is to have distinct highlights and shadows, but also to make sure it all blends well. The first time I painted fabric, I was painting curtains, and I spent around 10 hours just trying to figure out how to make it look like the fabric was folding and flowing. I decided to make my shirt black in this painting so that it mainly blends into the background, but I feel like it would look weird if it was fully just black, so that's why I added some highlights for shape. feel really happy with this painting. It feels really vulnerable and one of the more emotion-focused paintings that I've made, so it's a little scary to put it out there, but Pride Month feels like the perfect occasion to share art that's based on emotion and authenticity. Thank you so much for spending the last 17 minutes watching me paint. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I'd love it if you'd like this video, and if you'd want to leave a comment telling me what you thought, I'd love that as well. Happy Pride!